Welcome to my party. We're just getting started.
If you grew up in the 80s, you no doubt played with plastic Ninja Turtles, robots that turned into cars, and military task force that fought a terrorist snake cult. Congratulations, 2025 is your year, and you've been eating pretty well, and 2026 shows no signs of stopping. Welcome back to the Absolute Geek Podcast. My name is Matt. I've got Jay and Dom here with me tonight, and you guys both know Jay and Dom from different universes that are evolved around, but finally our universes are colliding in a just cataclysm of greatness, and we're here to talk about 80s nostalgia and how it's making a resurgence or renaissance in 2025. Whether it's you're a Turtles fan and you're excited about the current Jason Aaron's run that just came to an end, you're a Kirkman G.I. Joe Skybound fan, Transformers, the whole Energon universe, Void Rivals, whatever it may be. There's a lot to get excited about if you were born in the 80s and collected in the 80s, and now you're an adult in 2025. So seems like we're in that nostalgia cycle. Every 30, 40 years, this stuff becomes hot again because the kids at the time are now adults, and we have the money and we make the decisions, and a lot of us are trying to push that on younger generations. But let's go ahead and start with G.I. Joe. What's going on with G.I. Joe in 2025 that you guys are so excited about? I mean, we've got the Skybound Kirkman stuff. I know Dom, you're a huge G.I. Joe fan. What's gotten you excited about G.I. Joe this year?
Just the different, the different outtakes. We have two stories that are that side by side for Skybound. We have the regular Joe run that's still going strong, and we have the new Energon run. So we're getting two different versions of G.I. Joe right before our eyes, which, hey, it's not overkill. You can never have too much G.I. Joe. It's getting me excited. The new characters, the new takes on the old characters that we have. Hey, look, people have to understand, you have to evolve certain characters, certain things have to move forward. So we have new versions of characters. I'm okay with that. Some people might not be, but I'm okay as long as they keep the ethics of that character in bound of what he was about, and not dramatically change him to some crazy ass thing. But I'm just happy that we're getting that. The classified series is going strong. Super 7 is coming out with the O-ring figures, which we just got another 4 that just dropped. And I actually, was funny. I was actually talking to somebody about Mara, the experimental chick that Cobra had experimented on, the blue chick, and they made her figure. Go figure. It's like, it's like, wow. So I like the fact we're getting obscure characters that Super 7 is doing, and Classified is continuing to do the figures that they're doing, and they're going to do a lot more of what the future holds, what they're talking about. So being a G.I. Joe fan, we're eating damn good. The prices of the vehicles and stuff like that,
yeah,
it's either you eat food for a week or you pay for the toy. But as a collector and as a fan, yes, we're getting a lot thrown at us, and possibly definitely a cartoon sometime in the near future of the two properties, our favorite properties, which this should have been done a long time ago. Because how many Transforming G.I. Joe crossovers we had? We had a few. So yeah. This could have been done a long time ago. But you know what? Better late than never.
What is it about the G.I. Joe Classified series that's causing this kind of like resurgence and boom in the G.I. Joe market compared to I mean, would you rather try to go back and get the old, smaller figures, or are you completely sold on these Classified series?
Well, look, my heart will always be with the smaller figures, because when I used back in the day growing up playing and making play sets and making cities and towns and having the thing, the 6-inch figures aren't bad. I collect Star Wars. I have the Star Wars figures, and I think they're pretty cool. And it's kind of cool to have a 6-inch line too, because you could actually have crossovers with Marvel Legends, Star Wars. Look, I envision Zapanther leading the Surfer Society against the Joes. Come on, you have an option of having your own mind putting things together. But the Classifieds are more detailed. The Classifieds are more articulate. I mean, they have a lot more. It's just unfortunately that the play sets and the vehicles are very a very small window. And if they do something, it's very expensive compared to the most expensive piece of G.I. Joe that came out back in the 80s was the flag. So I definitely, I'm happy that we have both. We're eating good both ways with the 3 and 3 7-inch figures and the 6-inch figures. So I prefer right now. Like I said, my heart is with the smaller scale figures, but I'm digging the 6-inch figures with the more detail and a lot more you can possibly do. Create things. In hand.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, like I love the 3 3/4 stuff because, like you said, the vehicles. Because it's all. I mean, be honest, it's vehicles are a huge part of GI Joe, but I just can't bring myself to buy the exact same damn figure again. So I've just been into classifieds because, like you said, it's just something different. They're bigger, they're more detailed. They have most cases, they have way more accessories. And some of the vehicles are kind of affordable, but like Dragonfly, gosh, what else? The Rattler, the Snowcat that just came out. There's no way. I couldn't, I couldn't swing like $500. I just can't do it as much as I want to.
And I really hope we should start signing a letter to Hasbro, make the flag for the 6-inch figures. Just as a warehouse.
Mortgage your house.
Be $5,000. No, but you're right. I think we get the accessories with the bigger figures, and it takes away. It's so we have to sacrifice the vehicles for a better detailed figure, which it does suck.
Yeah, but I'm really digging those retro card backs of the 6-inch.
Oh yeah,
those are awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, like I went to Walmart.
Yeah, there you go.
And now they're doing the limited edition card backs that are a lot more money than it would Flint. They had like 85 made of one card and then the rest cards. But I don't believe that 85. I think there's more, but that card was up to like $600-700 at one time. Just the card back because it was a different card back. You slap a limited, you slap a limited piece count on something and it goes off the rails.
Yeah, that's how it sells. That's what gets the hype around it.
So, you both read the G.I. Joe comics. Which, in your opinion, is the better series right now? The continuous Larry Hannah run or what Kirkman and Skybound are doing with G.I. Joe?
Well, you want to go first or go ahead?
Well, okay. I'll be honest. When the new Josh Williamson books, when the whole Energon universe came around, I was very skeptical, and so I didn't read the Joshua Williamson one for a while. But the Larry Hama ones, I struggle with sometimes. Like this, when I left off, the stories were just so crazy, and I'm like, I'm just going to try the Joshua Williamson run, and it's really good. Like I prefer that one now over the old school Larry Hama ones. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm really digging the new.
And it's Robert series. Kirkman on the book now, but he's only 2-3 issues into his run.
2 issues,
Transformers,
25 and 26.
Yeah,
and those both issues.
Oh, that's right. I'm thinking of Transformers. Yeah, I'm thinking of Transformers. G.I. Joe is Joshua Williamson. Yes.
Right now, G.I. Joe is actually, G.I. Joe. I was excited for the new G.I. Joe Energon book. It definitely delivered, especially when Cobra came out. When they had the 5-inch limited series of Cobra, I was like, oh shit! And then when they actually they paid tribute to the old Cobra commander from Cobra La, and he goes, no retreat. And he shoots him. He goes, because Cobra always retreats in the cartoon. And it kind of like you killed your old self to be reborn as something new. And I like the fact that they poke fun at their old selves, but at the same time deliver a compelling story. Come on, you got freaking Cobra Commander in Cobra La with Megatron trapped, and then you got Galablius friggin' goddamn seeing what Cobra Commander's doing, trying to learn about Cybertron, sends Pythona, the friggin' Cybertron into space with some Cobra Law soldiers and Void Rival, the connection, and then you bring back all the obscure characters from Transformers cartoon, characters that are like secondary, and it's like you have a great story. It's like, and you have 3 war fronts right now. You got the Joe war front, you got the Joe and Cobra war front, you got the Decepticon and the Autobot war front, and you have the Void Rival war front that's going on. So you got 3 stories that are eventually going to come into its own and wind up in one cohesive. And that's why I'm so excited for the cartoon, because the possibilities of the cartoon with how they could do it, you have a piece of everything in it. Yes, you're going to tweak some things from the comic. It's not going to be the same like the comics, but dude, the possibilities of what we're going to get, in a cartoon with these stories, and the stories are legit. Come on.
Yeah.
Duke was a great story that, he was hellbound on telling General Flag and everybody, there's these giant robots that transform, and they put him in the brig because they said he was going crazy. Meanwhile, they knew what was going on. At the same time, he stumbled upon Cobra starting to build their organization. That's really cool storytelling, how they make an old story kind of new and fresh takes on it. And they're killing it with the Energon universe. And the old run of G.I. Joe is always going to have that. I read the last couple issues, and it's out there. It's out there, but I still like it. My favorite character, Zartan, is still running amok in the books, and that's what I'm waiting for, the Energon universe to introduce Zartan in this Dreadnought War. Hopefully it happens, but
yeah,
I'm waiting for that. But we're, like I said, you're right. We are eating good. You're getting 2 great storylines from, the 2 Joe runs are pretty good. Like, regardless of the fact, one complements each other. Like I said, you're going to get a different story in each book. One is more sci-fi-ish. The other one is more groundish. The last thing I think of was Dr. Mindbender. Freaking, there was an explosion, and it's a panther, a mindbender, and zombies, and over in Springfield, and freaking, you can't go wrong with that, man. You're throwing everything at us, which is fantastic. And if you think G.I. Joe's great, the Transformers storyline is freaking phenomenal. How they're building Mask. Look, I know IDW had all the properties, and they did this story with Mask and Action Man and Micronauts and ROM, and they combined it to one big cohesive story, which was fantastic, and I love that. But for some reason, Kirkman is doing it the right way, how they're introducing stuff, and if you read the last issue of Transformers, Matt.
I still haven't. I will fully admit it.
But I don't want to ruin it if you didn't read it.
No, go ahead. I mean, I'm
just saying, the fact is that friggin' Mayhem has the transformation sequence with Optimus Prime, how he transforms and stuff like that. Is he going to create Nemesis Prime and make his own Prime? And you can see that he's going to build Mask. And apparently, on one of the issues, issue 20 of G.I. Joe, Duke finally meets Optimus Prime. The Joes meet Optimus Prime. So the story is connecting. So you're going to have the interaction of the Transformers now fully in G.I. Joe coming up. And that Mask is going to have the transforming vehicles that transform, fly, and drive. And it's going to be awesome. I'm just, in my mind, I see the Pretenders, the Transformers Pretender headmasters off the bat. I see friggin' Mask. I see a whole bunch of crazy ass stuff gonna happen, and we are eating good, man. We are eating good. I'm sorry, man. I'm excited when it comes to this.
No, you're good, man. Like, why is it that you feel like G.I. Joe is hitting differently now than it did previously? Like, what makes 2025 such a good year for G.I. Joe?
Well, I feel like these new creative teams, man, it's like, unlike a lot of writers and comics now, they're not trying to put their own spin on it. They're not trying to make their own mark on these books. I feel like they're taking what already existed and they're just turning the volume up.
Yep.
And that's what these old IPs need. They don't need a modern take on them. They don't need, to these characters to be different or change or whatever. Everybody still loves it the way they are, the way they were. It just needs a little bit of a, just some adrenaline injected into them. And that's what's going on with Transformers and G.I. Joe, I feel.
You see, the main thing is they know what we like. They know what the IPs are about. Why change something that's already great where you could turn the volume up and make it even louder and have the same concept that people are going to like. And look, people get mad because things have to be changed. You have to evolve with the times. Look, Soundwave is my favorite Transformer. He transforms to a Walkman. I always wanted to be a Walkman, but the fact is that we're in 2025 now. The Walkman things no longer exist.
He transforms into an iPhone.
I know. Kids have no idea what the hell a Walkman
iPod
is.
Nano.
Exactly.
It's real small.
But for me, Soundwave will always be a Walkman. I don't care,
Sure.
And that will always be the greatest transformation, of any freaking Transformer for some reason, a Walkman. I love the Walkman. I had freaking Walkmans growing up. I love that concept. But things need to be tweaked a little bit more to get the new audiences in. Because like I said, Soundwave transformed into a Walkman. What does a kid know about a Walkman? They have no idea. What the heck is that? They know a semi-truck. They know. Look at Megatron. Megatron has to be a tank. And I understand the whole gun lore and all the whole stuff that even when Megatron was first created, there was a whole big controversy with it too, because a lot of places up there in Central America, up there in in Europe, they could not make a gun, so they didn't sell those things. Why do you think Megatron's toy is a lot of money? Because the American only certain places had the opportunity of making it. They can make it a gun because the laws weren't that strict. So if you really think about it, the Megatron Walter P-38 will always be a classic, and people complain because he's a tank. And you know what? Modern times, him being a tank is not bad.
Yeah.
But I really wish that Megatron would be the ultimate triple changer. That would have been, he could transform to a tank, but a freaking goddamn supersonic jet would have been freaking great. Has those two transformations. He's the leader of the Decepticons, have more of a presence of what he could be. But modern times, people complain. Look, I personally wish they would have, HasLab. HasLab, if you're going to do something for the fans, make Megatron as a gun. Make the Hooded Cobra Commander. Make the Princess Leia in the slave outfit. Make all these things, these controversial toys that you can't sell. Make them for the adult collector that's looking for them. Because let me tell you something. If you have a Patreon, if you have a HasLab with something and you have that in there and there's different tiers, people see that, people will buy the shit out of it. Yeah. If you make a package of a Megatron transforming into a gun, a Hooded Cobra Commander, and a Slave Leia in a package of accessories, that should be bought up in a heartbeat.
Ultimate crossover.
Oh my god! And plus, it's also for the fan. It's not meant for the it's for the adult collector.
Sure.
It's a thank you to the adult collector that's keeping the toy lines alive, because basically kids don't buy toys like they used to. We're the ones that are buying the toys. So if Hasbro, hear me out. Lenny, I know you with the Joes. Do me a favor. Make the Hooded Cobra Commander. I forgot the guy's name for Transformers, but I know the guys in Hasbro. But the whole fact is that these guys, they know it's on the table, and it could happen.
Yeah. And Dom, it's Captive Leia now. Okay.
Actually, you're right. Political correct. It's actually Hut Slayer Leia. Hut Slayer.
Yeah, Hut Slayer. That's right.
Hut Slayer. Yeah.
It'll always be Slave Leia. I don't care how politically correct you want to be.
It's just one of those things where, like we, as adults, some way, maybe in appearance adults, but as our minds, we're more of a child because we have they're hearing us. We're getting stuff that we always loved, and toys aren't dying. Just the collectors are, because like I said, the people, the adult collector, are the ones that are still paying the prices for the toys. Kids don't want that. They want iPhones. You got young kids now that don't even care about toys. They worry about dating girls because social media is making girls really appealing to the younger kids today because and just stuff like that. They look at the date, they look at the do things. They don't care about action figures and toys. My nephew, he's 18 years old. He's like, yo, I gave him toys when I was 11. I said, you suck. You know, but you know, we're keeping it alive. And like I said, I would love to go back to the days where you go into the toy store and you have the walls full of toys like they had, back in the 80s. And that's why the 80s was such a great time. You know, there wasn't enough stuff on the wall. There wasn't enough room on the wall to put everything up there. From Brave Star, the Transformers, the G.I. Joe, Thundercats, Silverhawks, Bionic 6, freaking goddamn Cops. You had all these IPs that were up for us to buy because it was flooded. But now everything's got to go through a freaking HasLab type of thing, a Kickstarter to get things going, and it's expensive. But
yeah, I think that's like what takes it out of it. Is like it almost feels like there's no risk reward for Hasbro anymore because they can just throw up a HasLab or whatever, and okay, well we'll make this when it gets crowdfunded. Like it just, to me, it's like kills the fun and suspense of the new line dropping and you run into the store and buying it and all that.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh well, you're gonna pay a couple $100 and once it says funded, then we'll ship it out. And if it doesn't get funded, then we're not going to make it.
Exactly. And that's the problem. You know, it's unfortunate, you know, and look at the prices we're paying. $30 for a 6-inch figure, $25 for a friggin' 3.5 inch figure, you know, 3/4, you know. The prices, that's the thing that really changed. Because you look at Star Wars figures back in the day, $2, $1.99.
Yeah.
Now you're paying $20 for a friggin' figure that.
Well, and the quality of the figure is so much better today than it was. Like,
yeah, I know.
The multiple points of articulation, the multiple heads, hand, accessories.
Listen, look, even though this is my favorite, this will always be my favorite right here. Always be my favorite because Star Wars, don't get me wrong, I love the thing, but the price you got to pay for the shit now, toys now, no way, man. You know, it's just too much money. And that's another reason why things are, you go to Ollie's and you find $9. And listen, wait till Ollie's. Wait till the holidays when everything drops in the Ollie's and Odd Lot and stuff like that. You get these toys for cheap. Why pay this much money? But as a Patreon, as a freaking Kickstarter, as a HasLab, those are the things that you do have to back if you really want this stuff. And like, I really wish they would make the controversy package. Like I told you, the controversy package, put it out there. You know, get everything in that package that you want in the toys that you love. And you know, it's sad, but at the same time, as a collector, we're still going to collect. For them to stop, nobody has to buy anymore, but people are still going to buy regardless of fact. No matter how high the prices go on toys.
Yeah.
They're going to pay the price.
Yeah. You know, what you were saying about, going into stores and just seeing a wall of your favorite toy line. You know, you go into Target and Walmart, because it's pretty much that's the only places that sell new action figures. It's always so depressing. You know, there's just a couple of lonely Joes, some, crusty, Star Wars figure that's been there. And it's like, that was part of the fun of it. And I don't, like you were saying, there's walls of these action figures that used to be on there, but I don't remember ever having to dig or go to multiple stores to find the figures I need. They were always all right there. But now you pretty much have to just do online, or like you said, wait.
Look, you know what's funny? The 80s, right? The 80s, it was plentiful of figures in the 80s. And you go to the store and you could find your action figure. The 90s started the Renaissance where people were buying the figure, this hot figure, and you couldn't find that figure. 2000s just wound up going downhill after that. But
eBay.
Look, I keep talking about Boba Fett. Boba Fett was one of the most highly made figures for Kenner. They made more Boba Fett figures than the other figures.
Oh, really?
And it's one of the most expensive figures out there in the vintage line, which is crazy. Transformers. I remember asking my mom to get me Soundwave. Couldn't find Soundwave. Found Megatrons all over the place. The gun. I wish she would have bought me a couple more freaking. Who would have thought that this day and age that gun would be a lot more money than what it is? Optimus Primes were all over the place, but Soundwave, find Thundercracker, Starscream, you can find all the other, but Soundwave was the hard one. She finally found one. I got it. I had it as a kid, but it took a while to get it. That's why a lot of this stuff, and my first G.I. Joe was Rock and Roll. That was my first Joe that I got. And like I said, Cobra Commander I like, but Zartan became my favorite. And that was 1984 when he showed up. So I have my niche of what figures I do like. But at the time, all these figures that I do like, there wasn't many made because it was the secondary characters.
Mm-hmm.
Secondary characters really didn't get a lot. But the Boba Fett, go figure, the Boba Fett was more. There was more Boba Fett's made when he dropped than like anything else, and that's unusual for a secondary character that only had a few lines and a few appearances.
Yeah.
So it's just now you look at the prices of all these names, you're like, damn, I wish I would have invested and bought all these things and had them put away because the prices are outrageous, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the same thing with Turtles, Matt. You collected Turtles from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
What was the hard figure for the Turtles that you had a problem get?
For me, it was probably Krang. As far as the Turtles go, like a lot of the bad guys, even the Technodrome was kind of hard. Like I had the sewer level play set. I had all 4 Turtles, and then you kind of started getting into the Baxter Stockman, Krang, Mondo Gecko,
Leatherneck.
Yeah, Leatherneck, all those additionals that are outside the main run on them. But it's not. It's like figure collecting is completely different nowadays from when we were kids. And like you said, I 100% wish that as a kid, I would have been more mindful of, oh, well, one day this is going to be worth something. No, I wasn't about that. I was like, oh, sweet, a new toy. I'm going to rip that open and play with it. And away we go, like you were talking your first G.I. Joe. My first G.I. Joe was that, I call it vintage now, but the 1991 Hasbro Snake Eyes, with the blue, and he was all blue, and he had the red goggles on, and the silver vest, and he came. Yeah, that was my first G.I. Joe. That was my introduction to it. And Snake Eyes was always my jam. Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, and that's the figure I feel like in the 90s was hard to find was Storm Shadow. Like Storm Shadow was one of the hardest figures to track down in the G.I. Joe lines. And whenever you had a new Storm Shadow variant or Snake Eyes variant, it was like those were always the one to go first. You could never find a Storm Shadow, but you could always find a Duke.
Duke was always around. I know Duke, but it's funny. Like I kept finding, Zap. What the hell is it? Now I'm going on blank on the Joe. Laser. Oh Jesus! Now you got me figuring. I can't think of that. It'll come to me. But like Rock and Roll, they made a lot of the Joes. The bad guys were always the ones that were less made. So they made like 2 or 3 of the good guys, and maybe 1 or 2 of the bad guys. And back in the 80s, maybe the beginning of the 90s, not the beginning, but late in the 90s, when it was much harder to find figures. Nobody really freaking cared about. There was no eBay. There was no freaking. People word of mouth. Well, I have it. How much you pay for it? I paid $2 for it. I'm looking for $30. So you pay $30 for a $2 figure. Now you got eBay. That $30 figure is like more money than anything else because people know what to grab. Like the villains and the women characters, like Scarlet. Scarlet was hard to find. In the Joe line because she was a woman's character. They didn't make that many.
Yeah.
But Snake Eyes was the hot character. People like that mysterious guy with the mask. And go figure. I like Snake Eyes, but since my mom bought me Rock and Roll, and I liked rock and roll music, it kind of fit hand in hand. I thought it was cool. And go figure, the two Rock and Rolls that came out now, I don't have them, and I never bought them. I've been like my mind has been all over the place and things like that, but eventually I will come across them. in the store, and I'll buy it. Eventually, get the original rock and roll, not the new rock and roll, which is pretty cool with the tats and stuff like that. But the original
retro card back.
Yeah, the vintage card. So eventually, but between Turtles, Transformers, GI Joe, there were so many figures that were hard to get. Even in the 80s. When they launched. It's kind of funny. I go back to when I was in school. There was a kid that always used to have the latest Joe figures. He had the Dreadnoughts before the Dreadnoughts even came out. And I'm like, what is that? He goes, oh, this is the bad guys, the Dreadnoughts. They're like a biker gang. And where'd you get those? Well, I have a connection. I'm like, how do you have a connection? These stores aren't in the store yet. I went to the store. I couldn't find them. They were like, oh, what are you talking about? Nobody had. He had these figures way before they even went in stores. And I'm like, what the hell? And it was a young kid. And then finally they came out, and he's like, you see? And he had the figures in his hand. I'm like, wait. So he must have been getting them from the source in China or something like that when they first launched and when they were made. So obviously he knew somebody was there, and they sent them to his family to get them. But I was back there. I was like, damn, the Dreadnoughts. And he had fucking. So I was like, dude, this is awesome, man. The hell with Cobra, man. Give me the Dreadnoughts. Awesome, until this day, Dreadnoughts, Zartan and the Dreadnoughts, will always be the coolest part of Joe's for me.
Yeah.
Well, to get that original Cobra Commander, you had to do a send away, didn't you?
Yes. So they had the send away version. You had to mail it. So it was like $2, dude. $2 and a couple of proofs of purchases from a thing. And you signed the paper. And believe me, I had that paper up until the 90s. I had the original thing in the 90s, and it disappeared. I don't know what happened to it, but I had that friggin' that piece of paper, and I sent it. And I got Cobra Commander. I got Cobra. It was bagged in a box, and I was able to get it and have Cobra Commander. Back in the day, and I was like, "This is awesome."
Like 2 months later, it comes in the mail.
Yeah, and there was no friggin' like tracking, and
you just gotta cross your fingers and hope it makes it back.
That one day in the mailbox, this came. I'm like, oh shit! Like the rocket firing Boba Fett. That wasn't rocket firing, but the original Boba Fett. And I think I had that. I think I had that, but I know I had Boba Fett, the original Boba Fett. I got the original. I had that for so long, and then I gave my toys to my brother, and he lost them, which pissed me off. I should have kept my Boba Fett, because I am an idiot when I see people like Sticks have a lot of their old stuff growing up with, and I had a lot of that stuff, and I gave it to my brother as I moved on, and my brother freaking lost everything. And you remember the Smurfs, the little PVC Smurfs?
Sure.
So I had just about all the original ones, and I had the freaking mushroom house. I had all those things for Smurfs. I was big on Smurfs. I loved the Smurfs.
Wow.
And I had 2 shopping bags full of those PVC figures. I gave them to my brother, and he wound up giving them to a girl that he liked when we were growing up, and gave them away. And it's funny because I remember the girl's name. Her name was Wanda. He gave her, not Wanda Maximoff, Wanda. He gave them to her, and she turned around and told my brother, she had him set up in the house. So when her father came home, it was dark in the room. He didn't pay attention. He thought there were mice. He went batshit crazy because they were all like lined up on the floor. He thought there were mice. But so a lot of those figures are worth a lot of money. The original PVCs, And look, as a child, I have to really thank my mom and dad that I had everything that ever came out, from Micronauts to Centurions to Cops to G.I. Joe. I had one toy I didn't get that I still hold. It still holds the scars of never having it. A toy called Terron. That they had the commercial. Nothing can stop this evil force. It's Terron. It was like a Triceratops dinosaur that had freaking 6 legs and walking. It was like battery operated. It was a Terron.
I don't remember that.
Actually, yeah, you go to eBay, Terron. If you can look, show you an eBay. Let's see here. It was a toy. Let me see. Terron.
He's gonna get just some chick named Taryn to show up on,
Yeah, right.
on his search. Our Taryn Edgerton's gonna show up in his search. But while Dom's looking at that, I think one of the things that really makes G.I. Joe work right now is like, it feels like when you're reading the comic books that you're being transported back in time to a young Joshua Williamson sitting in his bedroom playing out these battles with
Yeah.
his GI Joe figures, because now you're getting different takes on it. Like if you're up on the comic book, you've got oh yeah, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. So basically, that was what I wanted. It says it was a beast from beyond GI Joe. So GI Joe back in the '60s, they had the tall. My brother, my brother Jimmy, who lives in Ohio, he has a Geekstronomy is his hashtag. He has the original Joes growing up, the 12-inch figures. He has all of them. He's got the first black GI Joe, all the Joes that had the hair on their face, like the flocked Joes with the original. Because then they started painting the beards on them. He had the first Marine. He has them all, and that was his thing. The GI Joes, the original. And
That's awesome.
But going back, those toys, like my mom got me everything I want, and I thank God that I was very fortunate to have all the toys that I wish I had them today. I kick myself and say, "Damn, the prices of so many things you don't know. You just don't know."
Yeah, who would have known?
That's one of the reasons why I collect now, because it was all about my childhood. Because I had that one stage where I didn't collect toys for a long time, and then I just went back and started collecting again, and it's something that was never going to leave. I'm 55 now. Hopefully 65, 75, 85, 95. I'm going to collect as much as I can. By the time, who knows?
Yeah, it's fun. It brings joy to one's life. Why am I supposed to deny myself this thing that brings me happiness? Because some people sit there and say, well, yeah, you're just trying to hold on to your childhood. It's not really that.
No,
it's just that this shit brings joy to my life.
Nowadays, it is for me.
Do?
It's about going back for me and escaping to a simpler time with the how crazy the world is. Like Ninja Turtles, I just got the Target exclusive 1988 retro remastered figures, and I did a comparison video on them. But like holding those figures in my hand again, and just all the points of articulation, I'm like, man, I wish I had these when I was a kid. It took me back to a simpler time where I remember being a kid. It's like I always get drawn back and pulled back to that quote in Step Brothers when they're talking about the Chewbacca mask and the night vision goggles, and he's like, I wish we had these as a kid, and Dale's like, even better, we got them when we're 40, so it's like you appreciate it more because it just takes you back. It's the closest thing to a time machine we have, and that's why, like, my wife, I told my wife, I was like, thank you so much for indulging my stupidity and buying toys and stuff, and she's like, it's not stupid at all. She's like, it's a callback to a better time. It's you escape your current situation for a little bit, just even posing them or looking at them or breaking them down. And I wish, like, for me, I was born in 85, so like I came towards the tail end of a lot of, like, I was there for pretty much the beginning of Ninja Turtles, but and Transformers with the 85 animated movie. But like for me, the big fandom when I was growing up was Power Rangers, and so like I wish I still had some of those original figures mint in box. But like I said, to me, mint in box wasn't a thing when I was 6-7 years old. It was my parents got me the new toy. I'm ripping it open, and I'm going with it. And like I would say, that's kind of what I appreciate now with the way Joshua Williamson is telling his his G.I. Joe story, and the Kirkman's doing Transformers. Is it feels like you're getting a glimpse of stories that they've played out when they were kids playing with G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
And the different takes they're giving us on them, with like you have Destro kind of cementing himself in the last issue as the new leader of Cobra, and you kind of have Duke and Cobra Commander being forced to work together, and you're seeing different sides of this stuff, and it's cool to still walk into shops and find even loose figures, and like that Snake Eyes I had, like I still have it. It's in 2 pieces now because the rubber band for the waist has disintegrated, and I just haven't looked into getting a replacement, but like I still have some of those one-offs just for nostalgia reasons. Like that's my childhood, and it's fun. Like I still remember like my favorite line that came out was for G.I. Joe was the 1992 Ninja Force. Where you had the Slice Ninja Storm, Snowman Slice. You had the Storm Shadow Ninja Force that was like super hard to get.
You had Zartan version 2.
The
Mohawk.
The Mohawk Zartan.
And they're coming out with that in the 6-inch line next year. So
Nice.
you got to be happy about that. You know, Matt, like I said, you grew up at a time, growing up in the 80s is a blessing because you got to see firsthand the things that were new, and like everything is old, new again. That's old. That's now they're doing things. People getting their first hand on new versions of stuff that we already known, IPs that we grew up with, and hoping that it catches fire like it did with us growing up. I always joke around, and Matt knows I joke around, like, if you weren't born in 1977, you can't be a real Star Wars fan. Because people criticize Star Wars and all these things going on. You don't have the right to talk about Star Wars if you weren't.
I don't think you're joking around about that. I think you're legitimately serious.
I say that a lot, and people get mad at that. Because how can you say that? I said, you got to be around. When you're around for the beginning, that's where the magic is. Because the magic is different. If you watch it, so my friend of mine goes, so let me ask you something. If I saw Star Wars for the first time in 1990, that magic's not there. That was you. What about the magic for me? I'm not going to take away the fact that it could be magic, but it was just a magical time back in the 70s growing up when it first premiered. Not that it's been out for so long. You're watching it for the first time. When it first came out, when Star Wars, the commercial for the trailer came up, that was amazing. And then my father took me to the movie to sit down and watch the movie. I was amazed. It changed my life and what I viewed. Star Wars became an obsession of mine. And I'm not taking it away from a kid that's seen it later on for the first time. It's just the fact it's different. It's not the same thing. Where you see it for the first time when it first premiered, that's already out already, it's been on tape, and people seen it over and over again. It's different. And the same thing with the toys. My household, like I said, my brother, G.I. Joe figures, Space 1999, freaking Micronauts, Buck Rogers, all these things, Star Trek. My brother loves Star Trek. That's his thing. Me, Star Wars, Godzilla, Transformers, G.I. Joe, right? My younger brother, Masters of the Universe. So we had all these toys that we got. And that's why my 4 characters that I gravitated towards will always be my favorite core 4. Boba Fett, Zartan, Soundwave, Hordak. And the reason why I fell on the Hordak is that my brother collected Masters of the Universe. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. It looks like a vampire. And when I saw the She-Ra cartoon, when Hordak first premiered with the She-Ra, the crossover between him and the She-Ra, I became hooked. I said, oh, I love this character. So those are my 4 characters that I collect just about anything I possibly get my hands on when I do find them. And it's great that we continue to get they like I said, I think Hordak, they released like 5 or 6 Hordaks in the last year, which is amazing. Wow. And they got a new one coming out to crossover with Stranger Things with Devilman or with the Demon Man, freaking made up character that's a Master Universe type of thing. But that's coming out, and it's like, how can they make me more happy that I'm getting these things? That they're releasing stuff that are coming out. Yes, it's gonna be a lot more expensive than you, but just to have the newer versions. Don't get me wrong. I'm eventually will get my old original vintage versions that I had when I was a kid on card. That's what I want on card, to have them put away. My own thing. The original Soundwaves, Zartan, Boba Fett, and Hordak. Give me those. Grade it. I put them on my wall. Love. And I don't care if they're a 5.5 or a 5.0, as long as I have them in my collection. That's what I want. My personal. I'm not looking to sell. I'm looking to buy, to have in my personal collection for me. And with all the newest stuff coming out, it's great. And look, you go back to Matt, him growing up, Power Rangers. The original Power Rangers are worth a lot of money.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And the massive figures and I don't know if you guys do it with like the classified stuff, but when I look at like they have I can't remember, remorphed or repowered, whatever they call them, line now, where they're re-releasing like the original morphers, the original weapons, the head flip figures. It's just not the same because they're not the same. They're not as good quality right now. Like they're not as and it's weird. They're not as detailed as the original figures were. And you had like the metal on the morpher, the power coins, all that. Now it's just all like plastic. So you're paying extra money for the crazy plastics. But what I think is really interesting and cool about this is like we live in a time with this stuff, with it catching its heyday again and coming back and being popular again, that I feel like there's enough room in the market for both sides of the fandom to eat. Your new fans coming in and also paying a little bit of homage to the older fans that are the reason you are where you are, because they came in and have been a fan since they were younger. And I feel like, especially like Ninja Turtles, that's a property that we got the last Ronin after, a story that Eastman and Laird wrote way back when in the 80s, and that we finally get the comic book series, and it revigorates that mature Turtles fan, a fan of the original Mirage run where they were more violent. They actually killed people. It wasn't the kind of cartooniness we have today. And I feel like even with the Jim Henson 90s movie, the Jim Henson Studios puppeteer stuff and all that from the 90s, it shows that there's enough room for both these entities to exist, and they could really make more money if they marketed to, like, I think the fact that we got the news that they're shelving the last Ronin movie to kind of sonicify the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, cool. I'm for that. Like, I liked the Mutant Mayhem movie, CGI animation movie they just came out with, but again, it was more targeted towards kids. It wasn't targeted towards someone like me. And I think, if anything, we're in the 35th anniversary or something like that. I think it's 35 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original movie, releasing. And look how much money it made when they released that back in theaters. That should show you that there's still an audience that are hungry for Turtles in that form. And I think if they made that last Ronin movie as a gift for the older fan, I think it would do great. And if you did it like that old style, you go back to like the puppet and the dude in the suit versus CGI versus all that. I think, that's why Michael Bay's stuff kind of flopped. And there's always been these different iterations. And that's kind of like what I like about what Kirkman's doing is he's feeding both sides of the fandom. He's given the new reader stuff, but he's also paying homage to the people who got the G.I. Joes to where they are by talking about releasing this adult themed cartoon. It's like you're paying homage to who got you to the table, because that's where it all started, is the fans in their 40s and 50s now who are fans when they were kids, being older and grown up, having the money, but still wanting to experience that feeling that they had of G.I. Joe's in its heyday, of when it was in its prime, when you were kids, and experiencing that again. And I feel like that's kind of what we're going to get with the Kirkman cartoon that's coming out, is he's kind of paying homage by saying it's going to be adult themed, it's going to be violent, it's going to be kind of that payoff to our older fans.
You see, now there's a thing too. There's another thing too. You want to sell toys aimed for kids. You can make it adult, but the fact is that you're going to have to. You can't. Believe me, I would love to see the crazy stuff that they could possibly do, but I think it'd be adult to a point where it's violent, but not the violent way we think we want to be violent. Like if you look at Invincible, the cartoon Invincible, that's a violent cartoon. I don't think they're gonna do, and if they do that, hey, bravo to them, and if it make me more excited. But if they scale that back just a little bit to make it somewhat more violent, that the humans died, and that the humans died, there's no parachutes coming out like when Cobra gets shot to play. Freaking, Transformers. He shoots the freaking the cube in the guy's hand. The guy falls on the floor, gets up and runs away. He takes the guy, he throws him. The guy runs away. I want to see at least the fact is that where you see something like Starscream grabs a guy and goes, "Why are these things so squishy?" And you see a little blood go on his face. And he killed him. You didn't see him actually crush the guy. He just freaking squeezed him, and a little blood dropped on his face. And then he just wipes the blood, like because this is their oil? Because it's not oil, like it's not Energon. Some crazy stuff. But PG-13 for Transformers and G.I. Joe. Hey, look, the Transformer cartoon from 1986, the Transformers the movie, that was much more darker than the series itself. They got destroyed. Your parents were horrified that freaking all these robots got destroyed, and they're just robots. So you could have it like that, with a little edgier on top of that, and it will sell, and you can still gear it towards kids and sell toys. Look, let me tell you something. You don't think that freaking Kirkman is sitting there going like this, the money we're going to make with merchandising, with Transformers and G.I. Joe. It's going to be insane. You know, Hasbro, I know Hasbro has the final call on a lot of things, but they're going to be, the Hasbro team has said that we'll be seeing comic versions of the Joes in the 6-inch line. The original Sunbow, the Sunbow cartoon Joes in the 6-inch line. Most of the original characters that they stopped making, they're going to make them again and put them on retro cards. So G.I. Joe is going to have a lot of stuff coming out in the next few years. The next five years, we're going to have a shitload of more Joes, brand new Joes that they created for the Energon universe, Joes that they never made for in the original, like the Eskimo bounty hunter from the original G.I. Joe comic. What was his name? They made him in the Super 7 figures. But, you know, we're going to be getting a lot of different things. And look, and it comes, think about it. Right now, we're in an age where anything is possible. Anything is possible outside the box. Master Universe and Transformers. Skeletor Megatron. You know, who would have thought that we'll be getting Transformers crossing over with Masters Universe?
Yeah,
I didn't have that in my bingo card. I don't think anybody had that in the bingo card. With the San Diego Comic-Con, we saw it in San Diego. You know, in the at Mattel. So now, you make these, my gears in my head start rolling. You got to make a Hordak Soundwave. Make the cassettes the Evil Horde. He's the same color as Generation 1 Soundwave. The Filmation color is blue. Remember, Hordak is a wizard and a scientist. Technology. Can't tell me you can't put like a freaking cassette thing on where he has the Evil Horde come out of his chest. Transformers, you could do anything. And I actually brought that up to the guys. Please make that. Please. You would kill two birds with one stone and make my day. You have Hordak and Soundwave combining together. That'd be great. You know, me personally, a lot of people don't like this. I think it's absurd, but I think it's awesome. You know, it's a different take. And that's why certain takes, like the Turtles, you had Turtles crossover with He-Man. Turtles of Grayskull. Turtle line, the longevity of Turtle line will always go on. NECA's making great Turtles. You got Playmates making Turtles. Other companies are starting to get licenses where you get more now that as a collector, we're getting more because they're selling the IPs. They're selling the IPs to other companies to create certain toys that instead of having one toy company creating it, you have two other companies that are going to create the toy line, like Super 7 and Hasbro. Super 7 is doing Joe's. So we are eating good, you know, and we'll continue to buy and they'll continue to put out there. And I hope that with the cartoon, I hope we do get something we want violent-wise. You know, it'd be awesome. You know, it's, you know, the possibility is endless of what they can do with Transformers. You know, you would think you have these freaking tons of metal that are walking around. You don't think they're going to step on somebody or destroy something? You know, I think we definitely are eating good now. And I think the 80s Renaissance in the 2020s is going to be bigger and louder than ever. And I'm going to enjoy the ride as much as I can.
Sure, yeah, me too.
There's just so much good stuff that you're being given, whether it's Void Rivals, you know, a different take on the Energon universe that Robert Kirkman's given us, whether it's Joshua Williamson on G.I. Joe, you had your Duke spinoff, you had your Cobra Commander spinoff, which was really good.
Yes.
Then you're getting, you know, Transformers and what was going on with Transformers. And still with Transformers, you had all the crossovers, and now it seems like we're kind of 2025, you've also kind of gotten the Godzilla crossovers where Godzilla's crossing over with everything. They're crossing over with DC. He's crossing over with Marvel. He's crossing over with Ninja Turtles.
Transformers Godzilla. Come on.
Transformers Godzilla. Yeah, it's just like there's so much nostalgia that we're being overrun with that it's a fantastic time. I know, like it makes the kid in me super happy to like look at this stuff again, to the point where even like I said, I got those Turtles figures. I was unboxing them. I did my review. I was looking at them, and my daughter came in and she's like, "Ooh, what's that? I want to see it." And I was like, "Nah, get out of here!" And I kicked her out of the room. I was like, "These are mine. You're not touching these. Yeah, you're not touching my toys. Get out of here." You know, and
you got your toys.
Yeah, so it's a good time right now to rejoice and reminisce on what we were into when we were kids, before it was cool, when it wasn't mainstream, when you were still kind of like the closet nerd and had to hide that fandom. And you know, you look at G.I. Joe, you had that 85, or was it 85 cartoon movie, and then now you just got Transformers 1 a year ago, 2 years ago. It's cool the way they keep revitalizing that stuff. But what, man, I don't know what else do you want to talk about it on it, Jay?
So okay, so you guys talk a lot about this kind of stuff is nostalgic for you, and but how much of it do you guys think is it's not purely nostalgia, but the IPs were actually so much better, or not? Well, I don't want to say better, but they were just so. There's so much there. There's so much to play with those IPs that came out in the 80s that they still transcend to modern times. Because we kept talking about Transformers, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, but even like Aliens, You've got that new Alien FX series, Predator, Tron. It's like these things, they just keep, and granted, those aren't, Tron maybe didn't get the best of reviews, but these IPs that came out back then, is it pure nostalgia, or does some of it have to do with the fact that some of these IPs were actually pretty genius in conception? What do you guys?
Well, no, you're right. Like Transformers was created in Japan, created as it was Takara was they had the toy line before the cartoon ever came out. They had a toy line, and they had them write a Transformers story, a history, an origin story on Transformers for the comic book before the cartoon ever came out. And it was genius on that perspective to write. See, most of the stuff, toys came out first before there was an animated series or a comic book series. So you had the toys, and then you had to make the comic series, and then the cartoon came out. So from the toys to the comic to the cartoon, 3 different variations of what Transformers were. The American, like, once Transformers sent it into America, that's when Transformers really took off. Meanwhile, Transformers was back there. You had GoBots. GoBots came out. GoBots, and they had a little. And they sold. They were cool. They transformed. You had Psykill. You had freaking. I forgot the other guy's name. The Rock Lords. You had those guys, but it was genius for what they accomplished with those toy lines, and the nostalgia, making a story behind them into the stories we love today, and that it's still going strong.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There was controversies back then too, like Transformers. Does the word Transformers have any significance of what's going on in the real world now? Because it's a toy that's been around since the 80s, and you have real life stuff that transgenders. A lot of people, people are trying to fight to take away that name Transformers, which makes no sense.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
That sucks.
They actually did change something in Transformers. There was, I forgot what it was. There was a line in Transformers that they had to change, politically correct, to change it to make it sound better than what it was. And I forgot what it was, and I was like, really? I'm like, no, come on, man. It's like a friggin' toy. That's why, like I said, the controversy of the toys, man. Back then, people, things came out and nobody realized until later on. It's just not right. Hey, look, Slave One will always be Slave One to me, no matter what. No Boba Fett starship, no freaking. It is the figure fire spray ship Slave Class 1. That's why it's a slave. It's called Slave 1. And Boba Fett starship. Come on, you can't be original. You can't give a better name. You couldn't name it like a strong name like the Burning Inferno or the friggin'
something cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Dangar has a great ship, the Punishing One. Friggin' Ahsoka. That's what friggin' what's the name? Dr. Aphra, Archangel. Friggin' then Prince Sizor had a cool ship too, but you change the name of a ship because of the name, and I understand that toys with the word slave on it to sell the kids. I understand that. But to change that philosophy that's been around since 1979, even before that, probably, the whole thing is that the name of the ship was. And all the new books that came out, it's Boba Fett Starship. No more Slave One in the book when you read the books.
Yeah.
So they took that out of print. So it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
So the IPs definitely have a genius motive behind them. But a lot of the IPs that are the genius motive, there's a lot of controversy to a lot of stuff that transpired over the years. And like I said, from the beginning, there was controversy. Megatron gun, Walter P-38. That was a controversy in the beginning too with that. And now, and it's just kind of, it makes me laugh that you come out with the studio line and he transforms to a tank. People will get on that saying, I don't want a tank. He transformed to a gun in Transformers the movie. He's been a gun. We have not seen animation of him transforming to a tank, which we'll probably get in the Energon universe when it does happen.
Sure.
Because I got a feeling that because he's all injured and stuff like that, I think he's going to wind up running into the and they're going to transform him into a tank. They're going to rebuild him, and that's how he's going to have his tank mode and become a tank. So there's a genius behind that. But like I said, the original IPs, who would have thought Centurions? You had the Centurions, that the object behind that. You had Bionic 6 actually is a take off of Steve Austin and friggin' the $6 Million Man. That it's part of that program which they continued after the Bionic Man and Bionic Woman. You had a teenage, you had a father that was a bionic and the mother was bionic and the kids didn't know and they got hurt in an avalanche and the bionics put in them. So basically, if you read the original Bionic Man stuff, that's why Bionic 6 became a thing. Like those toys were great. You don't see a full collection of those toys. And that's a great IP that they can bring back. Bring it back in today if they had to. Cops fighting crime in the future time. That was a pretty cool, absurd cartoon.
Yeah.
But like I said, the IPs back then, there was more genius, more thought. Nothing now. There's no original ideas that somebody could put out there that's going to stick. From the 80s to the 90s, you had all these different things. SWAT Cats. You had Power Rangers was growing strong in the 90s. All these things. And Power Rangers came from,
Japan, Super Sentai.
Exactly. So basically back then, you had Power Rangers there, and then it came to the States and became really popular over here. So a lot of the stuff. And actually, I was watching a video about Voltron.
Yeah, that's another one.
Voltron never was intended to be it. So American company offered a script to say, listen, I want you to do a cartoon based on this and that. They sent the wrong idea and script to America that became Voltron. And it was like, what the hell? So a mistake became a natural phenomenon. And, so all those IPs like Voltron, like everything trans, Robotech, they had for American audiences, they had to take out all the violence. It was a violent cartoon, So basically what they had in Robotech and back on TV syndication in America was much more violent than they ever thought they would have in a daytime cartoon. People died. They showed ships getting destroyed. There was no parachutes, people coming out, and oh my God, kids are corrupting the cartoons are corrupting kids' minds. That was badass. I used to watch Voltron and Robotech, and I was going to school late every day watching the cartoons in the morning because it used to be cartoons until like 9 o'clock in the morning. Goddamn growing up. So there's a lot of IPs out there that were really cool back, that were created. Now, like I said, everything's recycled, everything is remade and reimagined, more of the modern times. And if it lasts, they just canceled the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the new version, the cartoon. Right?
Yeah, but again, I think it's because it's too. It's not that it was too different of a take because I liked what it was, but I don't think it's what people want. Like, I think the success behind the last Ronin comic book series, when it comes to Turtles, shows you what people want. They want that grittier, more adult themed Turtles, like I said. So they did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie. They're going to do the sequel, but they did kind of a series that's supposed to bridge the gap between the first movie and second, which was Tales from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it's only getting 2 seasons, and they canceled it. Well, because it's on a streaming service, 1, and 2, it's just not. I don't think it's what the core fans of the Turtles want. Like, it's cool, yes, because it gives you that opening door to introduce a younger generation into this IP, but that's not the generation that's buying the figures. That's not like, I don't see people out there clamoring for these new Turtles figures. They want the nostalgia. They want the old figures. They want, what's old is new again. Right. And I think like I said, it has to do with the fact that the people who skyrocketed your franchise are now adults. They're the ones with the money. They're the ones that can afford this stuff. And it just says something that they want just to that nostalgic feel again. And they want to, like, especially with me, like Turtles, I want that last Ronin movie. I'm so mad that we're not getting it. And
you know what? I think maybe you might get it. There might be a position put out there that it might come because, and look, I think
I think it's like, why can't we have both? Why can't you remake the movies and remake it for a new generation and Sonicify the Turtles? That's cool. But also say, here you go, older fans, your turn to eat too. Here's the last Ronin, the story of the final turtle, which was the youngest, who was always kind of the jokester, Michelangelo, having to overcome odds after he's the last one left and all of his brothers and father are killed. Like, it's that grittiness that started a franchise that we grew up on, that we've come to know and love and continue to support. Like, why not have everybody eating? Does Paramount just hate money? Like,
it's not that they hate money. I think they're looking at the factor that we make a small percentage of what they want. The older generation is dying out. And we're like the boom, the kid boom out there, that with the younger generation, now they have a bigger audience with a lot of things. Hey, look at the audience today. The audience, you got that big audience that freaking love the new Star Wars. They love the sequel trilogy. Mostly the people who, the original people who love Star Wars don't like it. But you have another younger generation that love Rey, that likes the character Rey. Don't get me wrong, there's some good parts of it. Kylo Ren was great. The Knight of Ren, I love that thing, but it didn't really sit with me to a point where I can say, "Oh my God, I love this." I'll I like it. Star Wars, the visuals are great. The story sucked, but you have kids that don't care about the story, don't care about the thing. They just want to see a movie.
let me ask you this, Dom. Let me ask you this, because I've always wondered this, and I want to get your take on it. Do you feel like the sequel trilogy would hit different with audiences if it came after The Mandalorian? If Mandalorian premiered and started before we got The Force Awakens, do you think? Because I mean, The Force Awakens was massive. Like it did massive numbers.
It
People
did
were like,
$2
"We
million,
are back.
$2 billion.
Yeah, we're back to prime Star Wars." But at the same time, it was basically just you repackaged and put a new coat of
No.
paint on the old movie. It was pretty much
It was pretty much a safe bet. It was a safe call. They wanted to play a safe bet.
yeah.
To try to get the audience back in. And and look, I don't blame Disney for doing that, but at the same time, Disney's mind, you put Star Wars on it, it's going to sell no matter what. I think Mando came out and put a fresh take on the grounded Star Wars stuff, where it was more grounded, more like it was more of. If you think, you put it in perspective, Mando was like the street level, like Spider-Man and the street level characters compared to the big cosmic entity of the Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, and all that stuff like that in space. Mando was more ground kept. Yes, he went to planets, but it was more basically on planet, and it was like the lone wolf and cub type of story. It was a story we've seen before. Yeah, you have an adult walking around finding a child, and they become a part. They pair up and they go. I think me personally, I think Mando was a hit because the sequel trilogy wasn't that good. I think if Mando came out before the sequel trilogy, it would have been a hit, but it would have hit on a different cylinder. Mando hit on a different nostalgia level because Mando was basically what fans wanted. Something that gritty, where you have, a mysterious guy in a mask going on and everything was familiar, but it was new. And you got the Darksaber. So you had a lot of history that was based on Mando. And like I said, you had the bounty hunters, you had the pirates, you had all these different aspects in Mando that made Star Wars what Star Wars is. Because Star Wars was never about the Jedi. I like the Sith, but it was never about the Jedi and Sith to me. It was more about the bounty hunters, the friggin' scum and villainy. That's what I liked about Star Wars. So you had that in Mando, what made Mando hot. But also the backlash the sequel trilogy had, that Mando came out with the sequel came out after the sequel trilogy, and people were happy that they got that because they knew what Star Wars fans wanted. They knew the audience. The Disney-fied friggin' sequel trilogy. Look, don't get me wrong. I knock the sequel trilogy all the time because story sucked. They handled the legacy characters wrong. They handled the whole situation where things could have been so much better if they put some time and thought in it. The original script for The Rise of Skywalker was so much better compared to what we got. And the original stories of all three movies were actually better than what the final product we got. But Disney wants to play it safe. Disney they're hooked on that thing where, hey, look, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of kids out there that love Rey. I don't like the way she was written. I think that she was written.
She's a Mary Sue.
Mary. They wrote her like a Mary Sue. They made her too powerful quick. She fucking had to fight the Emperor after the Emperor was defeated by Vader. After Luke redeemed Vader and killed the Emperor. Look, let me tell you something. Think about this. When freaking when Luke was in Mando in that season finale, and Moff Gideon was on the ship, and he seen Luke coming, he was terrified. The Empire was terrified. You know why the Empire was terrified about Luke? All they know is that Luke went into a room with Darth Vader and the most powerful guy, Palpatine, the Emperor, and he was the only one standing. That's the Luke Skywalker that I want, that put fear into the Empire, saying, holy shit, this dude friggin' goddamn came out on top of two of the most powerful friggin' Siths that were out there.
Well, and that's like why for me I asked that question, because I feel like Mando is a great bridge for multiple generations of Star Wars fans, because Mando brings together fans of the original trilogy, fans of Clone Wars,
Yep.
fans of Rebels, and then also gives you these new characters in Mando and Grogu and things like that you can latch on to. Where I think, me personally, as just the casual Star Wars fan, I think for me the sequel series would have hit differently if you would have had Mando there to bridge it, because then you're kind of bringing everyone in and then ushering in that new era, instead of using Force Awakens to just basically retell the story of Star Wars that you've already gotten. And then, like, yeah, because you had Luke, you had Ahsoka, you have Sabine, you have, Thrawn, you have pretty much everyone you're used to seeing in that series, to where the sequel series is just reintroduce all these new characters, and you don't know why you should care about them or anything like that. It's
They did wrong by pushing aside the legacy characters. They should have slowly had the regular. They could have easily took out the legacy characters and slowly passed the torch to new characters. Han's journey, he was always going to die. That was his thing. George Lucas already had him on the thing after Return of the Jedi. He was going to die. That was his main thing of dying. Harrison Ford has said it many times that he was going to die. Luke, why did he leave and isolate himself, go to an unknown location and be a hermit? There has to be more of a story. That's why the Mara Jade story and his son. That's why I'm hoping that's the freaking the freaking goddamn Star Wars Starfighter is that story. Is that gap of why he really went to Atu, because he thought he lost his wife and he thought he lost his kid, and it continues the Skywalker saga. Us fans, we're easy to forgive if you course correct certain things. Look, the sequel trilogy is not going anywhere. That's part of Star Wars lore. They're not going to disown it and abandon it and put it someplace else. That's part of Star Wars. We have to live with that. But if you course correct stuff and you really change things to make the movies look better than what they were, like the Clone Wars cartoon did to Attack of the Clones, made Attack of the Clones look so much better with all that substance and all that story arc, all those characters gave you more to like those characters as time went on. That's what they need to do with these characters, and not in a comic book. Make an animated series, make something, bridge gaps, make movies, make things make sense. And look, Mando is the key to everything. Jon Favreau just turned around and says the script of Mando season 4 is on his desk. The movie's coming out. Do we get a Mando 4? Who knows down the road? But a lot of the concept is probably in that movie too. And if they're smart, they go on all cylinders and they do the right thing by giving us that nostalgia stuff in there. You got to mention Luke. You got to have Boba Fett in it. You have to. And you're going to Tatooine. You have to. He's a freaking godfather, a freaking guy named Mos Espa. He's the mob boss over there. So you have to have these characters in it. If you really want Mando to take off, it has to hit in all those cylinders. And yes, Mando lost its spark with season 3, which I will always say season 3 sucked, but I understand what season 3 was about. Look, Star Wars is one of those niches where you don't know that the extended universe gave more of a backstory to Star Wars than we could possibly have, and of course, none of it was it was all creative owned by other people, so Lucas couldn't take those stories. That's why George Lucas hated the extended universe. But at least we had the extended universe for people's ideas and what the story moving forward was. There were some really good ones, and they were really sucky stories, but a lot of them were good. They introduced a lot of cool characters. They introduced the Yuuzhan Vong, which I actually like the Yuuzhan Vong. I want to see them. That should have been the Force coming in now, and I'm just hoping that Filoni and and Jon Favreau do the right thing moving forward. I hope the Ahsoka series really hits on all cylinders, because part 1 could have been so much better. It was good. I enjoyed it, but it could have been so much better. And I said, Mando season 3 really fell flat. So you got to hope that this movie does good. And if this movie does good, it brings back some hope to Star Wars moving forward. And if Starfighter fulfills what people's expectations on what people believe, their theories, and it happens, all you need is 2 Star Wars things to really take off, and the fandom will be back. You will forget about the stuff, and we'll be back.
Well, as we're going to wrap up here, I want to ask you guys a question. And like you said, between we talked about G.I. Joe, Transformers, Ninja Turtles right now, all 3 of them have stellar comic book series going on right now, top sellers. Which franchise do you feel like is hitting the hardest for you in 2025? Is it G.I. Joe, Transformers, or Ninja Turtles? And why do you feel that franchise is the one hitting the hardest right now?
Go ahead, Dom. You can
go first. Go ahead.
Okay. For me, it's G.I. Joe for the reasons I mentioned already. And like you were saying, I think it takes a really inspired creative team to do what Robert Kirkman and Joshua Williamson and I'm sorry, I can't remember who the artist is on the new Joe book.
Tom Riley.
It's they like you were saying, it feels like you are inside the mind of people who are taking the stories that they conceived when they were kids and with action figures, and it takes a lot of creativity to do what they do and have the reverence for those characters that they clearly have. Like I said, they're great storylines, and it's an IP that's still relatively the same, just turned up to 11. It just adrenalized for adults, whatever. But that's what's hitting hardest for me, and that's why.
What about you, Dom?
Well, I'm gonna say G.I. Joe as well. When you have a story arc, the Dreadnought War, it kind of turns things upside down, because you go figure, with all the characters in G.I. Joe, Cobra Commander, you have the Cobra Commander series, and you introduce the Dreadnoughts off the bat.
You're all about the Dreadnoughts, huh?
It's kind of cool. So it tells you what people they're actually giving you what people want. And there's more fans out there of the Dreadnoughts than anything else. It's just I think that they're hitting hard with the storytelling and the really hard edge storytelling and the perspective, the way they're introducing the characters. Come on, how do you in the G.I. Joe the new comic, you have the Baroness as a Joe and Chameleon, who was, because they lost the rights to the word Baroness, so Chameleon was going to be the new name of the Baroness, and then they got the Baroness back, and that's why we have Chameleon now as one of the Cobra operatives in the new Joe book. So things like that are really cool, that you have 2 characters that were the same character, and now you flip-flop it, and the Baroness is good now. For how long, I don't know. It could be she becomes a double agent on the road, who knows.
Which I like. I actually like that she's good.
And I do. But I got to go with Transformers now, really, because, Transformers was good from the get-go. The story was hard hitting. Yeah, it's not that it's a slow burn. There's something happening that's building the bigger story. But now I think the Kirkman run is 2 issues in, and you're like, holy shit, things are about to get crazy because of what you see developing. They've been working on freaking Gentleman Flag has been working on Bulkhead and freaking goddamn Mirage since the 30s, trying to find, they can't revive them, and they've been in the Joe facility since that time. They've been experimenting on them with technology, whatever they got for them. Definitely the Joes wound up getting some ideas, and then you got Mask. You're putting Mask in the I didn't expect Mask was going to be. I thought it was going to be G.I. Joe and Transformers. I didn't think they were going to go the way that IDW went. You know, so you have that, and you're looking for other surprises. Hey, I would not be surprised if you get Gem and the Misfits showing up in G.I. Joe down the road because you have Cold Slither and shit. But you know, I wouldn't. And on top of that, since Galactus and Cobra La is in the deepest part of Earth's core, or where they are, you have crazy creatures, the Inhumanoids, freaking Tendril, fucking Decompose, and freaking goddamn Boltar are freaking creatures that they can revamp and bring them up to be in the Transformer books, the beast to fight the Transformers. So there's so many possibilities of what these stories are hard-hitting, and these guys are fans. Not only fans, they write in their fan fiction of what they love, of what they've seen stories. And you're right, these are things that they dreamt up of what they could do. And watching 80s cartoons growing up, like, oh shit, this would be cool if this is this together here, this and that. So the possibilities are endless. And like I said, the stronger the series goes, the animation comes. You might get movies. You're gonna get a toy line. You're gonna get more things. And I think that, again, as 80s kids in the 80s, we're eating good in 2025, 26 coming up, because we're getting the IPs that we want. Yes, they're going to change a little bit because, like I said, you have to change things up, the modern times, but make them edgier so the adults, like Matt said, make the adults enjoy just as much as they did as a kid. Because we'll sit there and watch a kid's show, but it's like, I want to see this happen. Like, I don't know how freaking goddamn Wave Seeker sits down and watches Jedi Adventures. I can't. But anyway, but you have that, and the Transformers, the sky's the limit in Transformers and what they can introduce and who they can bring into the fold. Because it looks like the story is going to get only deeper and bigger and much more compelling as the next couple of issues go by, because they're finally getting the Joes interacting with the Transformers. So you finally get that series that we've been waiting for. You know, the little bit here, a little bit there, the little touches of salt in each book they're doing, which is great.
I think it's interesting because all of our interests, our answers, I think, kind of define us, that we're sticking. I feel almost like, maybe I'm wrong, to the fandom that launched it all for us, like G.I. Joe or Transformers. And for me, it's Turtles, man, because like I feel like 2025 was this giant rejuvenation for Turtles, where Jason Aaron's took over that book and he just started crushing it from day one. He gave us a different take on these Turtles, where he went back to where they were more gritty. But the one thing with the Turtles is that their brotherhood and family was always their strongest bond. And that's broken, where we're seeing them as individuals at different aspects by the events that led up to it that have affected them. And you're seeing how they have to come back together and reform that family bond and kind of redefine what family to them is. And you've gotten the spin-off of Shredder, where you're seeing him trying to come back to life and reclaim his honor. You get the Casey Jones spin-off. You're getting the Last Ronin stuff. There's just so much out there for a Turtles fan now. And
new toys. You got so many toys.
Yeah, new toys, new crossovers.
Yeah.
There's just so much out there. And like I asked that question, but really there's no wrong answer. I think it just kind of more so.
But I actually think you're eating better than both of us right now. You're eating better than both of us because there's so much stuff more. That's it.
Yeah.
You know.
But that's just for now. Like Transformers and G.I. Joe are both going to quickly catch up, because you got animated series coming out. You've got the G.I. Joe Transformers movie coming out. You know, like it's quickly accumulating up. But I don't think there's a wrong answer to that, because I just think it helps kind of almost pinpoint what fandom launched everything for you and where you continue to stand. And like I said, I've loved what's happening in Transformers, even though I'm an issue behind. I've loved everything that's going on in G.I. Joe so far. I still have to read issue 2 of the Dreadnought Wars.
So do I. I haven't even picked it up.
And I've been absolutely enthralled with what's going on with what Jason Aaron was doing on Turtles, and I'm super sad to see that he's leaving and that we're getting a new creative team on that book. But hopefully, it continues to grow and stay strong and stays one of the hottest books going right now. The same with G.I. Joe and the same with Transformers, man. Really. So I pose the same question to everyone in the chat. If you're listening to this, let us know in the comment section below. What franchise is hitting the hardest for you this year in 2025? Maybe it's we're going to see someone come out of the woodworks and go Thundercats, or, because Dynamite's doing Thundercats, or, like there's Johnny Quest, Space Ghost, Herculoids. Like there's so much from the 80s.
Bionic 6. Give us a Bionic 6 comic series.
Yeah, like there's so much from the 80s and the Hanna-Barbera stuff too. Gargoyles, Darkwing Duck, 80s, 90s stuff that's just blowing back up.
They just freaking crossed over Gargoyles with Fantastic Four.
Yep, catching steam. So there's, like I said, really growing up in the late 80s and 90s, you're cooking with gas now because of how quickly everything's kind of jumped up and catching steam again. So yeah, I think that's a good place to stop. Last question, what's coming up that you're excited for? Like, what is toy line, comic book line, movie, like what in these franchises that's coming up are you really, really excited for?
What to think about that? What about you, Dom? What do you think?
Well, I'm excited for with Star Wars, the Darth Maul Shadow Lord series coming next year. The possibility.
Are those comics? Are those comics or books?
Animation.
Okay, yeah.
Comic wise, like I said, I'm just excited for what we're going to get with the G.I. Joe Transformer books. Introducing new characters, introducing old characters that people love, that were new versions of them, which I'm looking forward to. Like in toy wise, like I said, I'm looking forward to next year. Like, Classifieds is going to make my version 2 of Zartan, Ninja Force Zartan, which really quick. What was with the 90s with the friggin' neon colors, man? The neon colors, freaking Generation 2, freaking the Ninja Force, freaking all these neon colors. Everything was neon colors. Which
man, I like those neon colors.
I know, but I'm just saying, but it was just crazy back then, the neon colors. But I'm happy that we're getting some next year. Like I said, next year, I got there's 2 sound waves coming out, which I'm very happy about. You got a new masterpiece coming out, the Generation 1 redecorated masterpiece, and then you have the Studio Series 86 Soundwave coming out. But also,
nice.
Rumor has it. Do you know the voice activated Transformers? When you say Transform, it's Megatron, Optimus Prime, this and that. Word in the street that we're getting a Soundwave. Don't know if it's going to transform into a freaking goddamn Walkman, which would be phenomenal.
Nah, he's got to transform into a boombox.
Listen, all I know is if that comes out, 2 paychecks. I'm put aside.
You know how cool that would be if he transformed into a boombox and you could load MP3s and play music.
Why can't you play? Because it's an $800 toy. You're definitely gonna have to play. He's gonna have to play some music. It's gonna be great. He's gonna be what? He's gonna get some. You're gonna get XFM or something like that. The freaking one of the series of Google or something like that are gonna be part of the thing. But that, and also we're getting a new Jango Fett, Black Series, a new Boba Fett Black Series. And 2 more Hordaks, so I'm happy, man. So I think next year I am definitely going to be a very happy man when it comes to some of the toys that are coming out, and then whatever Funko brings. If Funko's not going out of business, people keep thinking that it's not. They got a whole bunch of shit that are going to be coming out. So if they have some good characters that are coming out, I'm definitely the take. But as a collector, between the comics, toys, and just the nostalgia alone of cartoons and things, those are what I'm looking forward to. I can't complain. Next year is going to be a very busy year when it comes to stuff. So.
Yeah, I think we're talking about the stuff that we're digging right now. That we're liking. I wish I could say that about Star Wars, but unfortunately, for me personally, toy wise, Star Wars is doing great. I mean, that's never really suffered for a while. But I think that what I'm looking forward to the most for next year would be the Mando and Grogu movie and the Starfighter movie, because I hope that will start putting it on the right track. That would hopefully put Star Wars back in good graces of fans.
Well, I'm looking forward to the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. It's Star Wars Celebration.
Oh yeah, that too, for sure.
And that's the same year that Starfighter comes out. So in 2027, that's great. Look, as a fan, we always overlook things when it comes to certain things. Too much. Sometimes too much. You think it's great. It's not great when you have too much content, too much stuff coming out for something. With Star Wars was special because of every 3 years you had to wait for a movie, and it came out, and then the anticipation with the marketing and stuff like that made it huge. Now that we got Star Wars like every year, this and that, I know, but I'm happy. Listen, when in our wildest dreams, we never thought about that we would get all this content, but hey, look, you have a right to be happy. Like, I'm happy for Grogu Mando, but I'm not as happy. I'm actually more excited for the Maul series, because in my mind, I see things that hopefully happen in the Maul series. In Mando, just give me Boba Fett, that make me happy, and the movie become number one of my freaking thing. Give me a small tidbit of Boba Fett kicking ass and being the old Boba Fett. I'd like that. But what else? Toy wise, you got any toys that you're looking forward to?
Me?
Yeah.
Gosh. Just more classified stuff. Nothing really in particular. Just more retro card backs, I hope.
Did you get this? Did you get the Pythona?
No, I didn't. That's the
John
Pulse. Is that the Pulse exclusive?
Yeah. So,
no, I didn't.
So in Hasbro, Lenny, I'm kind of Lenny knows who I am. He gave me and my brother. The fucking lines are crazy. He's like, yeah. Nice. I still have to do a review. I got to do a review on this. I still haven't done a review yet. It's coming soon. I just behind on some things, But yeah, that's next year. Is supposed to be Globius. I think Globius is coming San Diego Comic-Con next year. So see if I get. But yeah, the toy. Like, what about comics? Anything in comics?
No, not really. Not that I mean, I know there's a lot of events. There's the Marvel Armageddon thing. I don't know what. You read about these things and you're like, well, I don't even know if I care anymore. It just depends. Is it going to end up being good afterwards? Who knows? But yeah, not nothing in particular that I can remember offhand, comic wise. No.
What's funny with the comics? I don't even collect the superhero comics really that much anymore. It's the Transformers, G.I. Joe. That's what
Turtles. Yeah.
Turtles.
It's the best stuff. It's fire in all cylinders. Superhero stuff's kind of fallen off, and we're getting back to that, Ninja G.I. Joe stuff with the way of the world. G.I. Joe seems to be more interesting. Transformers, Ninja Turtles, like you said, Gargoyles, that 80s stuff, 90s retro stuff coming back. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for all of it, man. I'm excited. I hope Transformers stay strong. I hope that Kirkman does some crazy stuff in Transformers. I hope G.I. Joe keeps going strong. I'm interested to see where they go with that. I like the different takes between Larry Hammond's stuff and Williamson's stuff. I've really enjoyed both aspects of that. I've enjoyed what they were just doing on Turtles. I'm a little worried about the new creative team, but I guess we'll find out with issue 13. The one thing I'd love to see go away is blind bags. I'm tired of all this blind bag crap.
Yeah, I don't think it is though.
No, I don't think so either. But I don't know. But again, let us know in the comment section below which series you feel like is going strong in 2025. What are you most excited about moving forward? I hope you guys liked this different take on the Episode Geek podcast. I want to try to get back to doing more of this stuff where this show incorporates pop culture too. So it's not just comic focused, but talk about movies, toys, genres, individual stuff like we did tonight. Things like that. Give people who have a voice and want to use it to talk about different things they're passionate about in the geek culture right here. And so you can find out about that. Because I know Dom wants to talk about toys. Jay wants to talk more about toys. There's all kinds of stuff I like talking about. I'm not just into comics. I'm into movies, video games, all kinds of stuff. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Dom and Jay, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Anytime, man.
Yes.
Great conversation.
Yep.
And thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit that like, subscribe button and turn that notification bell on so you know whenever we drop a new episode. And we'll see you guys next time.